Welcome, my beautiful souls, and welcome, Sagittarius, to a special reading for you. I felt intuitively guided that you needed this special reading, plus, a lot of you have reached out. And I like how you feel comfortable now reaching out. Like, if you feel like you need an extra reading, your monthly reading is already done for May, but this is special. I have a feeling that there's a lot of changes going on for a lot of different people, relating back to the Scorpio full moon. It was the last moon of the last 9-year cycle for spring. Um, that's it. And we're moving into a brand new 9-year cycle. So I have a feeling this is why a lot of people are reaching out, because this is the year of the Hermit, which means that there is a lot of deep reflection going on. Some are making some real life choices of, what's going to stay, what's got to go, what's helping you to grow, and what's maybe depleting you. So this is the year for that. Remember, next year we're moving into the year of the Magician, the Manifester. So let's get rid of the cobwebs. Let's have a nice, clean home and welcome in the new. But I don't think you have to wait till 2026 to start inviting in that energy. All right, so this is going to be for Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising. I already know many of you are intuitively guided. I trust my guides that they'll reach your guides. I just know it. Some of you could certainly be in love with the Sagittarius. Just know that your guides know that you're here. So chances are you're going to receive messages. Yes, it's going to talk about your Sag interest, but there'll probably be some special messages for you also. And I always say, like, feel comfortable asking your spiritual team. Your spiritual team is your spirit guides, your angels, your archangels, God, whoever you believe in, the higher realm. But feel comfortable asking for signs of confirmation, because they will give them to you. And I want to say that my readings are really energy readings, so you should feel it like soul to soul. All right, Sagittarius. It's just going to calm my mind, and let's go ahead and begin. So we will give Mother Mary the honor of opening up your reading. We will use the Gilded Tarot, clarify, and go deeper. We're going to use the newest deck, Guardian Angel Tarot. Guardian Angel Tarot. And we will use the major arcanas for like bullet points. But, for those who follow the channel, they many times tell their own beautiful little story, but then they'll relate to the whole reading. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the lid down. I have that light strip back there, and I'm still trying to decide whether I like it or not. I don't know. I mean, it adds light, and there is a special little eye that's looking at you. Wonder how many will pick that up. All right. Mother Mary, from a beautiful Sagittarius, says, what do they need to hear? All right. Well, one of my favorite messages from Mother Mary, watched over. I feel like it's so important we remember this. I allow myself to feel safe and enjoy my life, knowing that heaven is watching over my loved ones and me. Wow, that's your spiritual team. And they're always watching over you. They're always sending you signs. That's why a lot of times in a tarot reading, there could be signs that you've just been missing for whatever reason. And I just allow myself to be an open vessel to the light. So many times your signs may come in a reading, whether it be mine or someone else's. Not saying I'm the only one. All right, let's bring in the major arcanas. Um, and as many of you know, my cards are always pre-shuffled, but I like giving them a shuffle with you here also. So let's begin the tarot portion. Sagittarius, what's going on? What do you need to hear? What's happening in your world? Hello, Fool. It's a good sign. It's about a new beginning. It's about taking a leap of faith on yourself. Interesting because I feel like Mother Mary's saying you're being watched over and it is safe for you to enjoy your life. And you're like, okay, then that's what I'm going to do. We have the devil, heart of Capricorn. Um, the devil is good at casting illusions and talk about temptations. And I have to say, if it's talking about temptations or illusions, I feel like you're seeing through them. I feel like if, things that have tempted you in the past, I don't feel like they hold that power any longer. Remember, you always have the power over the dark. Not that I'm calling Capricorn dark, I'm calling the devil dark. Beautiful, look at that, the magician. Look how this magician, I know you can't see it as well. The magician is like looking at the devil very clearly, like, I see you. I see you. I feel like what it's representing is if there's anything negative, um, again, any illusions that you had, I feel like you're very clearly, I feel like you're very clearly seeing the truth. Now, sometimes it's hard to, not only see the truth, but then to accept it. But the fool's greatest mentor, and we're always the fool, starting on a new journey. Remember, every 9 years is a new cycle. So the fool's a great representation of the energy after the hermit we want to jump into. Take a chance on yourself. So the fool's greatest mentor is the magician. It's the first person the fool meets along this new journey. And the magician reminds the fool that you possess all the wisdom, everything you need to be successful on this new journey. You just merely need to take a step into it. So, I love that the magician and the fool are mirroring each other because it's like they're working together in harmony, and then the devil in between. So again, whether this is a Capricorn for some of you, um, I just feel like let's just say, well, I'm thinking of a song now. The dog days are over. The dark days are over. Um, I think it's by Florence and the Machine. Anyway, all right. Let's give him a cut. And let's begin. Actually, I'm going to slide these over a little. The magician is a reminder to you that you have the ability to manifest. What is it you want to manifest today? Because the Fool is all about the present energy. So this is not about the future or the past. This is about right here, right now. What do I want to take a leap of faith in? Number one, I hope it's yourself. I hope it's a new adventure. We have wise counsel. This is the Hierophant. Wise counsel. Belonging, learning, traditions. It is a 5. And I often feel when we see the Hierophant, it does, first of all, I want to say, hello, light and dark. Here they are, the light and dark. But we want to remember that we all carry, light and shadow within ourselves. So anyways, the Hierophant's the number 5. So I feel like it really wants you to question your belief system. Maybe some of you're feeling like you don't belong. But listen, maybe where you're at, you don't belong. Maybe you belong somewhere else. Hmm. All of a sudden, I feel like there's this group of people just like waiting for you. Like on this channel. I always say, anyone who's new, welcome to our soul family. We've been waiting for you. So interesting. And I feel like when the Hierophant comes out, you are pretty sure of, well, you're not pretty sure, like, you know, I feel like you have certain morals, you have certain boundaries that you're no longer allowing anyone to cross. It's like saying if you're not, coming from the light, doesn't mean that we're always in light energy, but if you're not at least coming from the light, well, then maybe keep on going. Wise counsel. That's exactly what the magician is to the Fool. We have transformation, realization, life change, and liberation. Wow, I like that. This is the newest deck, by the way. Um, so I still have not seen all the cards yet, and I do that on purpose. I want to see when you see them. Realization, life change, hello, Fool, and liberation. 5, change. Or Scorpio, by the way, for those who are keeping count. I'm noticing this hourglass, and I feel like it reminds me of like the days of our lives. But, our days are numbered. We can't wait forever to start some of these adventures. It's like an angel greeting someone. We have the Queen of Swords. Brilliant, experienced, humorous. Queen of Swords can be a Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Um, Interesting, her sword is down. Because usually you'll see the Queen of Swords with her sword raised, but here it's down. So I feel like whatever transformation is happening, and because we start with wise counsel, some of it's exactly what you might have received. Some wise counsel, whether it be, you know, like a parent, a best friend, whether it be here or whether it be your spiritual team. She is not in a defensive mode. Okay. We have the Eight of Cups. Well, that's probably why. Searching, empowerment, fulfillment. It says fulfillment because this person is heading towards the Nine of Cups. So the Eight of Cups is really taking that time. And you know what I love about these images? You always see your beautiful spiritual team there somewhere along the road. It's like Archangel Michael, but I'm not sure. Um, but if you notice, like, look at all the cups that are knocked down on both sides. She's walking away from them. So she's not hanging on to any of these cups. She's probably examined them. Like, all right, well, why did these cups fall over? Some of them are probably just free will. And some of them are just, they ran its course. That means you're on to something new. And this person is heading again to the Nine of Cups, which is inner harmony. And what did they say? Fulfillment. Well, Nine of Cups is really fulfillment of wishes. Let's take five across. Hello, Nine of Pentacles. Beautiful. Contentment, luxury, independence. Independence. There's something with Georgia here because I noticed that, like, instead of pentacles, they're all peaches. She's looking at them like, I did that. I grew that. She's proud of herself, as she should be. The Nine of Pentacles speaks about independent success. I'll slide them just a little bit. The meaning of the card is successful self-employment. Interesting that wise counsel is mirroring that energy. And following the Eight of Cups, I get a feeling that there may have been some emotional issues that may have gotten in the way of you and maybe certain dreams, certain goals. Again, just the way she's looking at, I guess, is it a peach tree? I don't know if they're in trees. I thought they grew in the ground. I don't know. What do I know? Um, but there's a sense of, I don't know, I feel she's very proud. Like, look what I did. Look how beautiful. It's almost like everything she touches turns to gold now. Why? Well, because she's had real emotional clarity. She's doing exactly what the Fool is asking. Be in the present moment. Get ready to take a leap of faith on yourself. So far, we have singular energy. Some of you in the Eight of Cups, it could be walking away from people, a situation, but this is walking away with clarity. And I want to remind you that you also want to know yourself in love. It's not just about the other person, it's about you. And why do you want to know that? Because sometimes you can find patterns, like, I mean, I know I've had in my life where, this time period where all I was attracted to was the bad boy. And where did that get me? Nowhere. um, well, I mean, I did marry one and had two beautiful kids, so it did result in something beautiful. But other than that, and then beautiful, the Four of Swords. I love this image. You know, it just it feels so relaxed. And I feel like like it may be a good idea this weekend to take a blanket out and just lay it in your yard and just, if it's during the day, just relax, maybe play a little music. But I also feel like laying there at night and just looking up at the night sky. Hmm. And I'm saying this because I feel like it brings a sense of peace to your soul. Interesting, I just said peace, and this person has a peace shirt on. It does remind me of my teenage years. But even, I mean, I've always loved that, just laying out in the yard. But what this is talking about is healing. Um, but man, I don't feel any angst in this energy. So that feels good to me. I feel like, I feel like the majority of you are on the brink of something. And you probably learned a lot from your past, both emotionally, but also, let's just say financially, because wise counsel mirroring the Nine of Pentacles. Well, some of you may be that wise counsel to others. And again, the Queen of Swords with their sword down. So very trusting within her own voice. And I feel like the majority of you are the Queen of Swords. But I do feel that, like, trusting within her knowledge, her voice. So I could see some of you, like, you are that wise counsel. You have gone through this healing period. You've had this life change, a life change. But what is it bringing? Liberation. Hello. Independence. Meditation. Belonging. Brilliant. Fulfillment. Jeez. All right, let's keep going. It's funny because I'm thinking, well, it feels like Sagittarius is doing pretty well. But maybe some of you haven't quite reached this energy yet. And maybe this is what this reading is for, is just to help you see that right around the corner, there's change. Right around the corner, there's adventure. But guess who has to go around that corner? You, as the Fool. We have beautiful the world. This is the first time I'm seeing this one. That's kind of beautiful. Accomplishment, celebration, completion. So, interesting is coming under the death card because and is mirroring the Fool. So we really have the magician who's representing 2026. But I, again, am saying I don't feel like you have to wait. You put the Fool with the magician together, truly you can manifest whatever you want, within reason. Like, you can't manifest someone who just doesn't want you. But that doesn't mean someone else doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's something we have to learn. Not everyone's going to love us. But that means we just got to go find, or I don't even know if I want to say go find. I feel like, it's what I feel like is you're really starting to love yourself. You are really learning about yourself. If it's you giving wise counsel, then what growth that you have had. This liberation, which opens up this next chapter, is just perfect so far. We have release, endings, transformation, freedom. Freedom. Huh. By the way, it's mirroring the devil. We have the Five of Cups, but it's under the Eight of Cups. And I'll come back and explain that in a second. And then, hello, dreamer. So this is the Fool again. How beautiful. Beginnings, believing, protected. Beginnings, believing, protected. Same thing Mother Mary said. Now we have two Fools. Okay, let's go back for a second. First of all, the Fool is now mirroring the Four of Swords, where the Four of Swords is also mirroring the Fool here. That's got to mean something big. So I want to go back to release because there are endings, and in this transformation, we know that there's an ending. The Fool is also representing a new beginning, so we know something is ending. I feel like it is of an emotional nature, because the Five of Cups is coming under the Eight of Cups. You know what I feel? I feel like some of you are proclaiming freedom. Like I feel your strength, and I feel this sense of not waiting around for anybody. Five of Cups means that there was loss, was to say disappointment, regret, forgiveness. But in the Five of Cups, there are two cups. This person doesn't know that because their focus is on, well, what looks like spilt milk. And I know that is taking it much too lightly, but the meaning of this card is about where is your focus? Is it on the past? Have you been waiting for someone to be the version of them that you wished they would be, but it didn't turn out that way? I hope you don't feel like that's the end, of love, because this is representing a soulmate energy that's behind this person, actually in front. But it's like when this person says, I'm not going to focus on these cups anymore. And that's what you're doing in the Eight of Cups. And I love that the Fool follows that. So it's truly like you're reclaiming your life. It's like you're not playing other people's games. Um, it feels like your money is growing leaps and bounds. But I want to remind you in the Nine of Pentacles, it is you. It is your work. But you are the one who reaps the benefit of that work. And how proud I feel that you must feel. Some of you might just be beginning with the Fool underneath that. But I feel like definitely take a chance on yourself. It's funny how I said with the Fool and the Magician, you can manifest anything. And then I took that back and said, well, not if. And I don't mean to hurt you when I say this, but, not as someone, let's just say, is not loving you in the way you deserve. I have a feeling some of you may have waited around. And when I say waited around, it doesn't mean that you did nothing. You probably still worked on your career, your finances, your creativity. But this healing is what I feel truly sets you free. Because the healing is right before the world, your next chapter. So, it feels like on an emotional level, something has run its course. But I want to remind you that there's still two cups. And that definitely represents soulmate energy. And then two fools. So this could certainly talk about two people who are both giving themselves new beginnings. Doesn't even mean we know each other, but we may be on this same path. We just don't know that yet. Because remember in the Five of Cups, when this person is focusing on what they have lost and not being optimistic about what the potential of what can be, then you kind of get stuck. So it's kind of like the Eight of Swords. You got to learn to free yourself, you know, or let's put it a different way, value yourself. I'm not saying all love should happen immediately. There are ebbs and flows, but I just get this feeling of something is telling me that the past, that it was just meant to run its course. And I feel like I shouldn't overthink this. Endings. But then these endings produce freedom. Okay, let's see what's on the bottom of the deck. All right, well, we have the star. That's not the bottom, but it wanted to be seen. Inspiration, fulfillment, and faith. This is the card of Aquarius. Um, I think I did a special reading for Aquarius too. I didn't do that many, but I do think I did theirs. But anyway, this is about your hopes, your dreams, your wishes. And this is about manifesting them. In the star's energy, you want to remember that you do have the potential to manifest some dreams. Sometimes they may look differently, but chances are they show up better than even expected. I feel like just put like good energy out there and I feel like it'll come back. Now let's see what's really on the bottom of the deck. Ego. Ego. Illusion. Dependency. Materialism. Devil and the devil. Interesting. Star underneath that. I feel like some of you may have like it could be your own personal issues that, something you've been trying to overcome. Something that just kept tempting you. But everything is showing me that you can. And some of you already have. I feel like don't allow the illusion of the dark to trick you into thinking that this is all there is. This is life. Well, that's just not true. You want to remember your power within your own life and how you are. I've been saying this a lot lately, but it is so true. You are the author of your book. You're the writer of your book, your story. And how do you want it to look? How do you want it to read? Exciting. But a real good book has ebbs and flows in it, right? Hardships. And then what's the word I want to say? Blessings. I'm also wondering, because there are two cups and two fools, if this is potentially also talking about a soulmate energy. I don't feel like you have to be asking for it. Like, you know, I feel like when you clear past energy and you really have gotten to know yourself. Because in the Four of Swords, three swords have pierced the heart. That's the heartache, that's the loss. But there's always one extra sword. And to me, that sword is your own truth. Knowing you inside and out. Like, what was my part in love? Or, let's say I had a dream that I wanted to manifest, but then I didn't. Why didn't I? And it's not judging yourself. It's just asking yourself these questions so that you can start to bring them about. All right. Let's bring in the Gilded Tarot. Interesting. The Five of Cups is on the bottom of that deck, too. Synchronicities. It's funny. I just did a podcast today on a spiritual awakening, the signs and the symptoms. And one of them was the synchronicities that you start to notice, the signs that you start to notice that before you might have just brushed off. And now like they are signs from your guides, like, that you don't walk this earth alone. All right, we're going to start at the beginning, but we are going to read it as a whole. I feel like some of you are natural healers. And I say that a lot, but I feel like a lot of natural healers follow the channel. So of course you're going to be represented, but you're being represented in really the most positive of lights. You're being represented in your potential to really create success for yourself. Sometimes healers feel like, well, I can't heal and ask for money. But listen, Divine knows that you need to live. Divine knows you got bills to pay. Um, and I know some people, they wrestle with that. Like, how can I do this? And I'm not saying like you should seek, like what's in the Bible. God does not send out beggars. So it's not about begging. It's about, you know, let's say you have a course that helps people to overcome. Well, of course you should be paid for that. Anyway, we're getting off course here. Hello, Eight of Cups. So now we have two Eight of Cups. Eight of Cups coming over wise counsel, the Hierophant. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel good because I have a feeling we're about to also talk about love in this, in your reading. But do not forget the potential it's showing. I simply feel like don't let illusionary energy or naysayers stop you from manifesting your dreams. I feel like there's certain things that this is showing that you're just great at. And sometimes you don't know that until you take a step into it. And that's all the Fool has to do is take a step in, take a step upon the path. And I'm telling you, signs, guidance, feelings, like you'll just know which direction to go. We have the Page of Wands, who is very much like our Fool. I call the Page of Wands my risk taker. This is someone who takes chances. I feel like the Page of Wands, part of the lesson, it may be your like your inner child. But I do feel like you're someone who takes chances. You follow your passions. But the page knows, well, the page maybe is learning that not everything is going to pay off. Not every decision I make um, is going to result in what I had hoped. Not every person that I love is going to love me back the way that I hoped. But this page gets back up again. That's what I love about this page. And this is representing you. So that's your natural energy. Doesn't mean that I want more hardships. It just means that everything you've been through, you really can learn from it and grow from it. Get back up again. Every image has a different angel around them. And, different angels or archangels, even spirit guides, will come out at different times. I feel like they all have their specialty. So, as it relates to emotions, probably a spirit guide who knows you on that level. It doesn't even have to mean that you know them in this lifetime, but you are soul connected. So, when you do leave this world, you will recognize them immediately. But where was I going with that? I don't even know. All right. We have the Five of Wands. Five of Wands coming over the Devil and the Queen of Swords. Five of Wands is drama. Five of Wands is fighting. It really is the energy of nobody backing down. But guess what? The Queen has a sword down. So to me, that means she's not allowing herself to get pulled into this drama anymore. She's releasing it. She's letting it go. She's putting an end to it, which is creating freedom for her or him. I may have fell for someone and it may have looked all pretty and romantic. But then, interesting, I'm noticing the five, maybe it took 5 years, because there's another five. But I feel like this is you overcoming that. This is you saying no more. Like I tried, but you're so full of drama, I can't take it anymore. And I feel like if anyone is like trying to tell you, like if you're trying to tell someone your goals and they are demeaning them, I don't feel like you're taking that anymore. You may have in the past. It may have had an effect on you. It's like in the back of your mind, but I don't feel like it anymore. Mm-mm. Like I'm really feeling you evolving. We have the Emperor. The Emperor. This is Cardivaries. But other than that, this is really someone we can look up to. This is someone I feel like has a lot of book smarts, but also life, wisdom from my experiences. This is someone who is normally very compassionate and empathetic. Um, I don't want to say they always show it. I don't know why I'm saying that. This is also the father figure, the masculine, coming over the Eight of Cups. So I'm wondering, are you walking towards this person? Let's find out. I feel like, I don't know if I'm just hearing your thoughts, but I feel someone is saying, I want someone who I can learn from. I want someone who they themselves have evolved. I don't want to teach anyone as it relates to love. Like, come to me already centered. And I think it's a good thing to know what you don't want, what you're no longer willing to accept. Especially as your energy evolves, it's just natural. Again, it's reminding me of the podcast I just did. It's just natural as you evolve that those who do not fade out of your life. The problem is with our humanness is we tend to pull them back in again. And with the devil showing twice, that could certainly be the situation. But I feel like some of you are coming to that realization of, what am I doing? What am I waiting for? Because even a bad relationship, when it ends, can leave some in a lonely state and make you want to reach back out. But think of the substance. Is there substance there? And if you yourself have evolved, don't lower your vibration to meet someone else's. Demand that if someone wants to be with you, they need to raise their own vibration, but it's not your job to do it for them. Matter of fact, it wouldn't work anyway. All right, we have the Queen of Pentacles over the Nine of Pentacles. That's pretty fitting. By the way, I do want to say that the Emperor can certainly be business ownership. And the Nine of Pentacles is also, well, it's successful self employment. I don't always feel that it has to be self employment, but it's the work that you're willing to put in, and then it's you reaping those benefits. With the Queen of Pentacles, she's my little psychic. It's funny how I give them all names. She's my psychic detective. So, some of you, natural healers, and you're connecting to above. Then we have the Death card. I feel like what this is saying, healing time is over. It is time for new. This is about transformation. Many times you'll see on the Death card, it'll say death/rebirth. It's about closing a door, closing a chapter, and look what's right next to it, the world. Literally the next chapter. I even love that it's a 21. That adds up to a 3. It's meant to be joyful. How are we going to begin this chapter? How beautiful if you feel healed. If you're no longer waiting around for what was not worth waiting around for. Now, I know some of you might be like, well, maybe I felt they are worth waiting around. That is your free will. Like, that's your spiritual team can't cross that line, but they can make it difficult. And why would they do that? Why would they make it even more difficult? Because there is a soulmate, which is probably predestined. It doesn't guarantee it. Because if we don't give change to what needs change, if we don't allow ourselves to have these new beginnings, especially after a cycle, a 9-year cycle is closing, well, then you're just pulling all that into your future. So let's close these doors. Let's have these rebirths. Let's get excited for the future. We have the Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles often speaks about your foundation. But listen, I feel like it's interesting because realization, life change, liberation. Often I feel in when the Four of Pentacles shows up, that it could is with depending on the cards that are around it, that it could speak about something that started with a very weak foundation. Like it didn't have a strong foundation to stand on. So the first strong wind comes along and knocks it over. Versus now, knowing that, and everything I build, I'm going to start with that strong foundation. Four of Pentacles would also ask you not to hold on to the way things must be and to be more open to the things, the possibilities of what will be. We have beautiful, the sun, freedom, the sun. Well, the sun is your illuminator. The sun's like a brand new day. It is like feeling like a kid again. And it makes sense with your younger self or your inner child, the Page of Wands, already being on the table. It is card of Leo, by the way. Now the sun is mirroring the devil, the light and the dark. Who's going to win? Whichever one you choose to feed. But the sun, it will illuminate to you what's not working on your behalf. Then it has to be you that makes that ultimate decision. But the sun is definitely here to help illuminate. And think of the Scorpio full moon we just went through. All about transformation, letting go, allowing rebirths to take place in our life. Then we have the Page of Pentacles. Page of Pentacles over the Five of Cups. I feel like what it's saying is there's something you've learned through some of these emotional situations. You still learned, or at least there's an opportunity to learn. The sun's going to make it very clear for you. And, if I am waiting on someone, I feel like the sun will also make you feel the truth. But then again, it will be left up to you. We have 2 pages on the board now. 2 Fools, 2 Eight of Cups. Just looking at the synchronicities with the devil twice. Could be double Capricorn. Interesting. The King of Pentacles under the Queen of Pentacles. Wow. Now, I know that you are not an earth sign. However, I do feel like you're either the queen or the king. just the way they're coming out. I also feel like the king is the emperor. So something emotional you've gone through, but it's something that teaches you, it's one of those lessons that sometimes I don't know that I want, but yet you do. Because let's go back to that Four of Swords, that one sword, right? I need to know my own truth. I have a feeling this king and queen are those two cups that this person doesn't even know exist yet. All right, let's go right below that. Getting interesting. Well, it was interesting from the start, but now it's really getting interesting. Justice. Goodbye. Goodbye and good luck. This is about cutting ties to whatever's not serving you. Remember, justice is for your benefit. It can represent a divorce. Doesn't have to, though. But some of you, that may be exactly the question you're asking yourself. When justice shows in a reading, it's about making you whole again. It's about what's fair and just in your world now, because it feels like it's your time now. And it doesn't even have to mean that I'm cutting a person out. It could be the way I'm thinking. I'm making some type of change because something is unbalanced. And as soon as I use the sword, what I find is true balance. And that's how you live life, a good life. You know, I know you can't be balanced at all times, but the more balanced you feel, I just feel like the more life flows. All right. Um, Look what just flipped itself around. The Ten of Swords. And what's really quite amazing is following justice, where it's asking you to use that sword, just to cut ties. That sword of justice is a gift that we're given in this lifetime, and we can use it whenever we want to. But if you use it, which I feel like you are, especially with the death card there, it's like you're closing a door and then allowing a new door to open. Look what happens the minute you use that sword of justice. These 10 daggers that have been in your back, and it could have been for years and years, they're falling out. They no longer have any power. You know, I don't even feel like you're going to remember the majority of them because I feel like you're off to bigger and better places. This is where the past really no longer has any effect on your emotions, even your thoughts. You clearly know what you don't want. So, it's almost like undeniable. And when I see the Ten of Penny or the Ten of Swords, I often think of like the devil and a repeat pattern, illusionary energy that just keeps bringing me back and bringing me back. But then the same thing keeps happening. I'm the one who ends up with all the daggers in the back. Not anymore. Not anymore. Beautiful. Um, by the way, I don't know if I said it, the sun is a card of Leo, justice is a card of Libra, death card is a card of Scorpio, the Emperor card of Aries, Capricorn, or the Devil card of Capricorn. I mean, we have so many signs here. We have you, your younger self, or I keep saying your younger self, but what I mean to say is like your inner self, your inner child, almost like your moon, your true emotions. And I feel like you really are a risk taker, but maybe you stop taking chances. And hopefully that's changing now. Page of Cups, under the sun, King of Cups. Interesting. Page of Cups and King of Cups. And let's try to get our last card with this deck. Well, I shouldn't say that because there are a few things I may go back and look at, but let's see what follows this thing. Oh my. How about the Knight of Cups? How about that? How about an unexpected cup of fulfillment? Right over the fold, connected to this king. It's actually connected to two kings. But here's the thing. I feel like, um, what was I going to say? I feel like when you see a lot of different people in a reading, it's because we have a lot of different signs in the reading. This is an unexpected cup of love. It is those two cups that many didn't even know existed. Right over the fold. By the way, mirroring justice. So look what using that sword does. Not only does it allow all these daggers to fall out of your back, it's like it brings you back to yourself again. And then it's like, here comes love. I know it says two cups. I just feel like it's going to be different people, you know. Though I do feel like the emperor is representing the type of person. So, because I feel like for many of you, you may be doing, like, you may have your own business. You certainly may counsel or call yourselves a healer. Not call yourselves, you are. You are a healer. Um, and, the emperor is all of that also. Again, someone that you can look up to, someone that you don't have to worry about. And I feel like the king and queen coming out together is talking about like minded energy. Here comes love. I feel like I want to pull this knight right here, though, for a second. And I just want to follow it for a second. Let's remember it's over the fold. And also, we have two people who are clearing past emotional energy and giving themselves a new beginning, fresh start. May not even be thinking about love. Some of you are like really wrapped up within what you're doing, like your creativity. But that's not going to stop this night. All right. We have the world. We have the Four of Cups. Okay. Let's talk about this for a second. So the Four of Cups will talk about discontentment or boredom, but within one's emotional life. Look what's coming in. A cup. Right from the hand of divine. From the light. It wants you to use your spiritual discernment, whether you accept it or not. It makes complete sense. And I'm not saying that I'm sitting here all lonely and like, oh, I just want a cup. But there is some, like, it would be nice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel angst over it. I feel like divine is just answering your call, to be honest. And then look at this, the Ten of Pentacles. Wow. No wonder the Queen and King of Pentacles came out. And by the way, how do I love that we already have the Nine of Pentacles, which I do feel is singular. And now we have the Ten of Pentacles, where I feel like this is coupled. You're not alone in the Ten of Pentacles. That's a house of abundance. It's a house that truly can take root. It's tradition. Maybe they decide to work together. I definitely feel like they'll be combining like their finances, and I feel like we're sitting pretty. So interesting because, and you know what else I feel like in the Ten of Pentacles? I do feel like it talks about loyalty. I mean, first of all, my pentacles are all out in the open. Anybody could reach in and take them, but nobody's going to. Not with the people in this chapter. But it's not even about loyalty to someone taking your money. It's loyalty of being faithful. And I know that means a lot. So this is being ushered in by the Knight of Cups. Again, unexpected couple fulfillment, heading right towards the world, your next chapter. You know, when will this next chapter, again, do I have to wait till 2026? It doesn't look like it. You know, but don't skip over the little parts that is showing how you actually arrived here. I feel like it's saying, first and foremost, it's like you are strengthening your foundation, your life, your finances, and then it just feels like the perfect time for love to enter my life. Butterflies. But security, joy, laughter, romance. But it feels like it goes the whole way. You know, I say it all the time that I feel whatever follows the world, because I feel like it's the most spiritual time in our life. It is meant to stay until your ending day. Hmm. I mean, I really couldn't have asked for anything better. So I feel like where some may have needed this special reading, I feel like it's more about trusting within yourself, like trusting within your gifts. You know, if you feel like you could be a counselor, then do it, right? Just step into it because your guides will help you. Remember, you're never alone, ever. And that doesn't mean like they're peeking on you. No, they respect your privacy. But what I'm saying is when you need them, they're there. If you like you're on a certain path and you start to veer off, well, something's going to happen to put you back on that path. I mean, you do have to listen. You know, your guides, your angels, they cannot cross your free will, but they will try to make it difficult. And I mean that just to get you on, well, this beautiful path. Not only do we see your money like multiplying, but then I feel like we're seeing a real love. Not that the love before wasn't real. There's different levels. And as you yourself evolve, it's just a fact that those who don't and don't want to, that they, well, the universe tries to make them fade away. We just have to learn to let it. Because the Ten of Swords is reversed, I feel like you're saying, I get it. I get it. I get it. All right. Let's bring in the clarifying love situations. Let's go over this. All right. All right. We're going to take them exactly as they came out. Envy's turmoil, obsessed hearts, and jealous minds brew a storm of unyielding chaos. Wow. Hopefully that's not what you're crying over. Envy's turmoil, obsessed hearts, and jealous minds brew a storm of unyielding chaos. Someone may have made you feel that way also. Like for some reason, all of a sudden, I'm feeling like, man, someone has done a number on me. Growth guidance. Nurture your roots to fuel progress and rise beyond your dreams. Hello. Does that feel like that is straight from your guides? Nurture your roots. That's what I feel the Four of Pentacles is speaking about. Anything you start, build it with a strong foundation. That's your roots. It fuels your progress and you rise beyond your dreams. Well, we saw your dreams with the devil covering them up. Too late. We already saw them. We already saw them. All right. Last but not least, let's bring in the romance angels and then we will let it be. It feels very clear. Um, it's like my Sagittariuses are growing up right before my eyes. It's like my children are growing up. I shouldn't have called you my children. My soul family. Ugh, if I can pick it up. Playfulness. The sun. That's what the sun is about. And that's about the fool, too. You know, why can the fool be so playful? Because he doesn't have a lot of worry on his mind. To recapture romance, allow your inner youthful spirit of fun to shine. Bring out that inner child. Let it have some fun. See what happens. Release your ex. The time has come to clear your energy. Release your ex. Love yourself first. Your self-respect makes you more romantically attractive. Release your ex. And I feel like this other energy, this playfulness, this loving yourself first, I feel like it just naturally comes. But I want to do one more round. I'm not sure why. I just get this feeling. I got a feeling worth waiting for. I knew something else wanted to come out. And I love this message. Divine timing is at work in your love life. What does that mean? That means that you can let go of it. You know, something to keep in mind though is wherever your vibration is at, that's what must vibrate back to you. That is the law of attraction. The universe doesn't decipher. Does she really mean to send that? Is that really what she wants? You know what I mean? What you put out there is what comes back to you. That's why it's saying to love yourself first. Release your ex and get into a playful state. Like, to me, it just means that you're going to start really enjoying your life. And then love is just going to happen. That's why it's unexpected, because it's in divine's hands. And literally, you can just let it be and know it's like in its right timing. And I know a lot of people don't like it when I say that divine timing, divine timing. But, you know, it makes sense that this love coming in while you're still taking all these daggers in your back, they just kind of don't fit together. And I feel like there are a lot of similarities here. So I wouldn't be surprised if your future love has also gone through very similar experiences. I often find that with soulmates, where in twin flames also, where they'll talk about, their lives and it's like, whoa, I've gone through the same thing. And I definitely feel that this is a type of love where if there's any broken little pieces left, we're going to help each other. We're going to help heal each other. You are not going to be thinking about this. You're not going to be thinking about these daggers. You are off on this new adventure. And what was. But look at all that wants now open. And all you merely need to do is take a step into it. I mean, yes, you do got to close the door. You do have to use that sword and reclaim yourself, your power. But the rest of it just seems to just happen naturally. What a reading, Sagittarius. You know, sometimes when I do these special readings, I think, do they really need a special reading? But no, I shouldn't have said it that way. Um, no, I shouldn't have said it that way because I never question it. It just comes to me. But there's a reason I'm doing this reading today. So I know it's going to reach the right ears. And you know what? I'm just going to let that be. I thank you guys. I love you. If some of you feel like because we see the Fool here and the synchronicities between two people are so great, if you feel like you are potentially having a spiritual awakening, listen to that podcast I just put out. It's only 9 minutes long. I think it's 9 minutes and 22 seconds. Um, if you choose. But it's good to understand some of the signs because a spiritual awakening has ebbs and flows with it. And, it's when you're in that ebb, you don't want to give up because you're so close. So that may be why I did this reading. There you go. All right, guys. I love you. I thank you. Um, I'll see you next time at our table. Bye bye.